Welcome to another episode of Real Hawk Talk. This is Brian Nemhauser at Hawk Blogger on Twitter, and we've got a fun show tonight. This is a breaking news version of Real Hawk Talk, and as a result, we couldn't even assemble the whole crew. Folks are off, in Toronto doing crazy things and dealing with kids in Kirkland, and so we're bringing a powerhouse crew tonight, back by popular demand. Dana O'Gorman, at Dana OG on Twitter. Dana, you were incredibly popular in your first appearance on Real Hawk Talk, and you set quite a precedent for our other new guest tonight. We're excited that you are going to be hopefully a regular contributor to the show. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm glad that you let me come back at all. So,
well, the reality is people really don't like most of us that are on the show and have problems. So having someone that's likable.
What's funny is that's not wrong. You're completely correct. It's not even sarcasm.
Yeah,
it's not even a joke.
Yes. Everybody in the chat is very happy that you're back. So welcome, Dana. As usual, unable to control himself, Evan Hill, at Evan in SEA on Twitter, is back. Good to hear from you, dude. I'm sure you will keep it at ear-piercing, bleeding decibel levels once we get into the core topics of the show. How you doing, man?
I am doing well. Audience, if you're listening, I assume you're listening since you're tuning into the show. If I go on a rant, whenever I go on a rant in the future, please screen cap Dana's reactions in real time.
But I won't be surprised this
It's just for my own, for my own personal meme use. That'd be great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have a new guest, not a new member of the Hawk Blogger crew, but a new guest to Real Hawk Talk. So Derek Gebbe has been a relatively recent addition to the blog and has written, for my money, the best articles on the blog in the past year. Really, really well researched stuff. I will warn you, he is one of the analytics folks. So he and Nathan are like basically bunk bed buddies on almost every topic. But he is a smart guy, and most importantly, he understands that Zeke Pizza is significantly better than Papa Murphy's, and it's not even a conversation. So,
wait, do you actually believe that, Derek?
That's very true. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's kick him off the show.
It goes Zeke's, Pagliacci, and then Papa Murphy's.
I will agree on Pagliacci's, but I won't get us off sidetrack. I'm sorry.
No. And I'm going to take the moment to give a shout out to Zeke's up in Issaquah on the Highlands. Give them some of your money. Get some good pizza. Great folks up there. And Derek, by the way, on Twitter, must follow, is at Derek, and he does not want to spell his name a normal way. It is DERYCK.
There you go.
G_. So I'm sure everyone listening, driving on the road or jogging, listening to this, oh yeah, got it. I'm going to immediately follow that guy because it's so easy to remember that handle. Again, that's at Derek, DERYCK. I literally have to look at it to I can't remember
it's not
myself.
that bad.
At DERYCKG_. So that is the Derek that you want to follow. It's good to have you, dude. So Dana, we have a lot to talk about, and we only have about an hour to do it. So
we do. Today was a little overwhelming. I will tell you, when the news broke about Quinton Dunbar today, our chat exploded, and I knew that it would, because we were all assuming, I'm going to ask you guys this here in just a second, but I'm kind of assuming that we all thought the kid was out, that, he wasn't going to play. And the news broke today. And is it kind of sad and pathetic to be excited that someone didn't get charged with armed robbery? Because, it's really not something you usually cheer about. But yay, he didn't get charged with armed robbery. And hopefully he will be able to play it for Seattle this season in some capacity. We're going to talk about how maybe not in, at least for the whole season here in a minute. But I want to hear from you guys. What was your first reaction? What was your first thought? Brian, I want to start with you. What was your first thought when you saw that news?
So I am the minority in this case. Like I At no point was I thinking that Quinton Dunbar was not going to play this season. That was
really,
yeah. I wasn't assuming he was, but I hadn't yet gotten to the point where I thought there was enough stuff that was different about what was going on with him versus Baker, and I was just waiting.
Sure.
And some of that's because I'm just not paying close attention. If I was like really, really focused on it, maybe I would have felt differently. But I was like, all right, cool. And then my second reaction is like, okay, now what's the commissioner going to do? Because you just don't know. Like Jaron Reed didn't get charged, but didn't get suspended for the year he had it happen. And then a year went by and then he got a 6-game suspension. So who knows what's going to happen? But I will say my best guess is at most, I think you see like a 2-game suspension. And even if it's 6, he's going to play for the Seahawks this year. That's a big deal.
But, I have a hard time and I want us to, Evan, I'm going to go to you next. But, so we were super excited because we knew what this meant for this defense. And we're going to talk about how good the secondary could be here in just a few minutes. But I want to know what your first reaction was. But then I also want to know, do you think he'll actually be suspended? Won't it depend on what they found? And it doesn't sound like they found much. I mean, it could be that he just gets to come to camp.
Yeah, no, those are really good questions. I'd say right off the bat, we should clarify a little nugget that Brian dropped there. He's still on the commissioner's exempt list. So as of right now, say like tomorrow was September 7th, was a Sunday or whatever, he wouldn't be able to play tomorrow. So he has to be removed from the commissioner's exempt list to be able to play the season. I don't even think he can practice technically right now. He could just participate in team activities. So that's the current status on him. We'll see what happens with him being removed from the commissioner's list. Several Seattle journalists, Joe Fan was one of them, a couple of others made some interesting notes on Twitter that were like, I'd be really surprised if, and I'm paraphrasing here, but they would be really surprised if he was suspended. And I don't know if there's any inside information behind that, but it's really hard to predict what the NFL is going to do when it comes to enforcing the personal conduct policy. This is something we've talked about on the show for years. There's no consistency whatsoever. I think without any inside information, it's a complete guess either way, 50-50. I have no idea what's going to happen. But to answer your second question, my first response was I actually opened up Twitter and the first thing I tabbed was my notifications just to go to the top, and because I'm OCD like that, and I see like 15 people just tagging me and I'm like, oh, something happened. And at first I thought it was Clowney. So I was excited for that or a potential Clowney acquisition. But this was incredible news. I mean, we've been talking about it all off season. I've been pretty, I would say, pessimistic about their offseason, frankly. And
Evan, stop.
I should be clear, though. The one move, no, you're right. The one move that I've loved from the beginning was the Quinton Dunbar trade. Like, relative to what they gave up, which was a 5th round pick, Pro Football Focus had Quinton Dunbar rated as the second best corner in pass coverage last year. So he had a really good season last year. 2018, he had a good year, but not as good. He was like top 10. He's a stud. Right now, he's a top 5 corner in the NFL. Yeah, he's 27, 28 on the older side, something like that. He's not going to be, a 10-year starter or something like that. But it's a huge upgrade for this secondary and this defense. Trey Flowers, as much as I like him, got picked on a lot last year. He really did. And it was sort of a struggle to watch him play. So having him sort of step back into that cornerback 4 spot and learn behind Shaquille and Quinton, assuming he's activated from the commissioner's exempt list, is really exciting. I don't think you can understate it. It's a huge, huge upgrade for this defense. And we'll talk about it later, but they're looking like one of the best secondaries in the NFL.
But here's my question, and Derek, I'm going to give this to you since you're kind of the analytical guy. He hasn't had a full season yet.
No.
I mean, Quinton Dunbar has not played a 16-game season yet. Does that worry you? It worries me a little. I'm not going to lie. It's a little nerve-wracking.
A little bit, yeah. Especially you're dealing with like lower leg injuries. I think he had an ankle last year, and so you always worry about that, especially when it's been multiple seasons. Of course,
Mhm.
see if it's kind of a recurring thing. But honestly, I'm not majorly worried. Even if you only get 10 games out of him, 12 games out of him, it's a huge boost. You know, there's a lot of players that miss games occasionally, so it's not a big deal if he misses 2 or 3 games. You still get, for the vast majority of the season, a Pro Bowl level player at that position, and that's huge for the secondary.
Yeah, I was looking up his injuries, and they were kind of when they were listing off his injuries, they even listed off mysterious, like a mysterious leg injury, a mysterious. I'm like, why is the hell is this mysterious? Okay, so there's rumors, coming out of Washington Football Club. The kid's kind of a pain in the ass, and we know that, But at the same time, he plays at this crazy high level, and this is a classic Pete Carroll player. Disgruntled, chip on his shoulder. This is just perfect for what Pete Carroll loves to do. Plus the way that he plays. I think this secondary, and I'm sure that we will either all agree or all disagree because that's the way it works here. This secondary is going to be crazy good. Now, at our Turf Football that I write for, we always say it looks good on paper. Like, so everything's shiny on paper. We always say that. But even off paper, this looks pretty damn shiny for the Seahawks. I'm excited, guys. I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's interesting about a couple things about Dunbar is that he has played a little bit of nickel, which also factors in. I don't think he's going to play nickel. He obviously is going to start at a wide corner position. And Evan's completely right, which is rare. That Trey
say that out
Flowers.
loud.
I did.
God.
I did.
I'm gonna replay that clip over and over in my head, in my dreams.
But I've been pretty consistent on Trey Flowers as a guy that I think is a liability at that position, and I've taken a lot of flack for it. I think he made some really nice strides last year, but he is not. He was approaching an average starting corner. He was not approaching a good starting corner, and I think that he's still in that transition period. I don't think that he is incapable of getting to be a good starting corner, but there's a massive divide between Quinton Dunbar and Trey Flowers in terms of corner. So, it's a huge addition there. And I think that one of the things that we're going to have to go back and look at is, I actually was trying to do this right now is has he faced anybody, in the AFC West, NFC West, and how has he done? He actually did play against San Francisco last year, so I'm going to go check out that game in a second.
Well, you want to find a game where he's like defending against a good quarterback.
Good quarterback, yeah.
So be careful there.
Got it.
You don't want to look at the San Francisco game last year.
I know he didn't do very well in that game.
Skip that.
I think his best game was against the Giants, right?
He looked pretty good against Miami too, but here you go then. Philly though, he looked okay. Yeah, don't look at that San Francisco game. But here's the thing, I think we all agree. I like Trey Flowers. I think he did fine. I think there was a nice jump from, his rookie year into, those other years. I think that he started to you could see him kind of round out a little bit. With the injury history that Dunbar has, the mysterious injury history, it cracks me up. I think that I would be okay with Flowers coming in. Like, I'm not panicked. You could trust him for a game or two or a series or two, that needed. It doesn't make me as nervous if it was some, newbie kid off the street. I think that is the nice thing about having Flowers there.
I agree. This isn't a Kerry Williams situation over again.
That contract was so bad.
Well, aside from that, it gives you some faith that if Shaquille or Dunbar go down, you have a guy who started 2 full seasons basically at the position.
I still can't believe they got him for a 5th round pick. That just,
well,
I know he was disgruntled, but like,
I think the last thing we haven't talked about is that he only has this season left on his contract.
For sure. And that's actually a point I was going to bring up is I just checked over the cap to confirm my suspicions. Our 2 starting corners, Shaquille Griffin and Quinton Dunbar, 2020 is the last year of both of their deals. So I don't know if
It's tiring, damn it.
I know these deals are so short. But yeah, Shaquille Griffin is entering obviously year 4 of his rookie deal. Quinton Dunbar was extended, 3 years, 12 million or something by Washington 2 years ago. So the secondary is looking really good and projecting really good for this year, but there's no like long-term financial obligations to Seattle. And the only thing that I'll bring up that kind of concerns me, and Dana, you were probably listening to this interview with John Schneider in the offseason. He was asked by, it might have been Greg Bell, about Shaquille Griffin's like contract and, the Seahawks like precedent in history of extending, core defensive players a year before their deal is over. And they asked about it. And John Schneider's response was so weird. He like completely dodged the question. He was like, yeah, it's just not really top of mind for us right now. It was really weird. So for any fans that are considering getting a Shaquille Griffin jersey, I highly recommend you go listen to John Schneider's response to that. I'm not saying there's a whole lot there. It was just really weird to me.
I think that might, though, have had something to do with the question marks surrounding the cap over the next few years. You know what I mean? That could have a lot to do with that. They're like, if we're to bare bones it, is Shaquille at the top of his list? Probably not. But, it sounds like.
Do you really think so? Like who would you put above?
Well, it depends on how Dunbar does. I mean, they'll have to see how he does if they're going to redo him. Who else is up then?
Let me go through their list actually.
Yeah,
in real time.
I don't know.
Lock it as what, one more year after this?
Yeah, so that's a good one. That was only a 3-year deal, so that's a good call out. That's highly unusual for the Seahawks in terms of contract stuff. I think Dwayne Brown is entering the last year of his deal. 2021 is the last year.
Yeah, he has through 21. Yeah.
I doubt he gets extended.
Well, I think he'll retire. I think that he's getting to that point that he'll retire. He might go for one of those. They might give him a 1 more year extension. Do you know what I mean? Like he's like, okay, I think I'm fit enough to make it 1 more year. Yeah. And so they might do that.
Rashad Penny's coming up for a huge extension. Super excited about that one. Running back 1 moving forward.
I feel bad for Rashad Penny.
I do too. I actually do too.
I feel so bad for that kid. I feel bad for CJ Prosise. I feel bad for all the running backs.
But to go back to my point though, a little bit, like the Seahawks don't have a ton of like high level elite blue chip talent that, Jamal Adams, obviously. That's the big contract extension that needs to happen. But that came recently. But the Seahawks, like right now, over the cap has them at $55 million in cap space for 2021. And outside,
is that with the decreased cap?
It is not. That's with 215 and
it's going to be under 200 next year.
You're 100% right. So let's say it's 200 and it stays even
at the highest.
Still 37 million space. So
there's room. I mean, there's room, and there's room to figure it out to maybe they can, push it down the line just a little bit or whatever. And then there's always the tags. You got to look at those too. And maybe they're going to see what happens next year with the cap and then they can tag him out for another year. I mean, I think that they like the way Griffin plays. I think he has played the way they want him to play. So there wouldn't really be much logic unless all of a sudden someone said, told the kid he was worth, $1 bazillion and talked him into his head saying he had to get this huge dollar amount, which I don't know. I think the minute Seattle drafted his brother, I think he had an affinity for the team. So I think maybe, there might be something there, but I don't know. I think next year is a really hard guess, just simply because of the question marks that will come around the cap. And you have to remember, some teams are going to have extra cap room because they pushed the players that opted out. Oh my God, New England is going to have money because they just rolled it over to next year. Yeah. And Seattle didn't have that. They only had Chance Formack. That was the only one that opted out.
I'll tell you what, though, of all the players you guys mentioned, Jamal Adams is the only guy that you need to sign. I'm dead serious. Like,
really?
No, I'm not saying that you don't sign those other guys, but Shaquille Griffin is not a must keep player. He has not proven that to me. He is.
So, okay, let me rephrase the question. If he repeats his 2019 season, repeats or better, does the answer to that question change?
I think so. Like I'd have to look at like the overall roster construction, but you're talking about like, are you going to pay him like he is a Richard Sherman for your defense? Like, are you going to pay him as a CB1 for your defense? I don't know if I do. Like, I don't know if I want a 4-year, what would the guarantees be for a deal like that for, like
Up of the line corner market is right now Darius Slay at 16.6 per year.
God, I wanted him in Seattle so bad. Oh, God.
I like him. I like having him on our team. I'm happy to do that. I'm not even saying I'm against them re-signing him, but he's not a slam dunk to me.
So-
Jamal Adams, you gotta sign.
Mhm.
So it's a play consistency issue, not a money issue, or kind of both, or
It's ceiling. Like what's his established and sustained ceiling, and then does he have more? Like have we seen the best of what Shaquille Griffin's going to be, or can he do more? I think that's
Brian, I have a question.
Yeah.
If Dunbar plays the same way he played last year and Shaquille plays the same way he played last year, who do you pick?
Dunbar.
Mhm.
Dunbar's already
Yeah.
Really? He's
ceiling.
28. He'd be 28 then at that point, though.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, you guys act like that's 7,000 years old. Actually, I mean,
Shaq-
think about Sherman at that age. That was his prime.
Right, but if you're extending someone for 4 years, right? I mean, Dunbar's 32.
Seattle
That's
really
getting
likes
up there for
3-year deals,
corners,
though.
and Shaquille's, I think he's going to be barely 25 this year.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, Derek. I don't think you're giving Quinton Dunbar a 4-year deal. I don't think it's the
Mm-mm.
same deal for
I think
Dunbar.
it's
Maybe
that
not.
for
Maybe
Griffin.
not.
So, I mean, I would rather have Dunbar at 3 years than have Shaquille at 4, potentially, depending on what the guarantees are. And again, this is all in a vacuum because I don't know where else. Like the defensive line is a disaster still. We got to know where the money's going there.
Mhm.
And I know we'll talk about that as well. But
We are, yeah.
we're already kind of talking about what'll happen next year. I mean, I am curious where people's heads are about like where does this secondary rank?
This year is most important. I hate it when you start to get too far down the line. And that's when, we were talking last week. Everyone's like, oh, well, he's only going to be around for 3 to 4 years. Awesome. I love that. You know what I mean? And so you have to keep in mind this year. You have to focus on what's going to happen this year because that's all you can control technically.
Can I read you something, Dana?
Please, absolutely.
You guys can listen to it. It's not just Dana and I talk. But so this is an article written by PFF, Pro Football Focus, like in late July, and it was ranking the best secondaries in the NFL. And they had the Seattle Seahawks secondary as 5th in the NFL at that time. And they talk about in this
what? When was this written?
at the end of July. So hold on, just listen. Quinton Dunbar, this is later in the article. Quinton Dunbar was supposed to step in and solve the Trey Flowers issue, but his role is now up in the air following an offseason rest. Dunbar was a perfect fit for the Seahawks scheme. Without him, that second spot is once again a major concern. And then they go on to the very end with the trade for Jamal Adams. The Seahawks add one of the league's most valuable safeties and the number 20 player overall for PFF. Adams is one of the few safeties who makes an impact in coverage in the run game as a pass rusher and can be deployed in several different ways. So that was before they knew Dunbar was likely going to come back for the Seahawks. Mm-hmm. So if they had him at 5 with Trey Flowers as the starter,
who's ahead of him?
You guys want to hear that?
Yeah.
Any guesses before I give you? I'll give you 4, 3, 2,
Baltimore,
1.
Chargers,
Cisco, Chargers,
Baltimore Chargers,
Ravens,
San Francisco.
Baltimore is the Ravens.
That's Baltimore.
Chargers, Saints probably are up there.
Yeah.
And so you guys got a couple of them. So definitely, the Ravens are number 1. Mm-hmm. The Chargers are number 2. The Patriots are number 3.
Oh, Gilmore, sure.
Yeah. And the Steelers are number 4. So I think they are certainly better than the Steelers with Joe Hayden and Steven Nelson, and Terrell Edmonds is fine, but
they have Minka too,
and Minka, right?
They were huge additions last year. Yeah, that was a huge improvement.
Obviously, the Patriots have Gilmore, who's the best cornerback in the league, and J.C. Jackson's a good corner as well, and McCourty's a great safety. But Jamal Adams is, I think, as good as Gilmore in terms of impact player. You don't think so, Dana?
I don't think no.
Really?
Maybe I think he can be, just maybe not with the team he was playing with last year. I mean, I'll give him that. You know what I mean? Put him in a little slightly different scheme. Gilmore was amazing.
He's really, really good. He's really,
Yeah.
really good. But yeah, I think Jamal Adams is also that.
I mean,
level.
he's up there, but.
And then the Chargers, I forgot they had Chris Harris.
They did.
That's a big get. So they have Chris Harris, Desmond King, who will probably move to safety, and Derwin James, who is a great safety. Casey Hayward Jr. is also really good. So I would take the Chargers secondary probably over ours. Yeah.
I hate to say it, but yes.
But here's the thing. Ravens are ranked number 1 for them. And I love Marlon Humphrey. I wanted him so bad in the draft. So bad. He went too high. But they've got Marlon Humphrey, and they've got, I'm not a huge Marcus Peters guy. Like, I think he's overrated. Maybe it's because the Seahawks burned him so much.
Yeah.
Super inconsistent player.
Yeah.
I do like Jimmy Smith, but I think he's a little overrated. And I think Earl Thomas is significantly overrated now.
Oh, Earl Thomas is he's not a top 5 to 7 safety anymore. I think he's like top 10 to 15 probably.
Derek is smirking like he has a different point of view.
No, I think Evan's close. I'd say top 10.
I think he's top 10 still, yeah.
You get the top 5, yeah, it probably gets a little sketchy. There were just some plays last year where he's just slow.
Like, that's what it was. Yeah.
Like old Earl.
Yep.
You remember Derrick Henry just like turning him around and like pushing him?
Yeah.
Like that would not happen to 2014 Earl Thomas.
Oh God.
No
And
way.
Doesn't that break your heart? That's one of the worst things about being a football fan for a long time is you see that age kind of creep in. You know, I'm a huge Sherman fan. I know that's not a popular thing to say with Seahawks fans. I'm a crazed Sherman fan. But even now you start to see little bits and that breaks my heart. But I think you're right. He is not the Earl Thomas that he used to be. Is he still a magnificent player? Of course he is. But do the people around him bring up that secondary more? Yeah, I think so. You know, it's not all on Earl.
Yeah, I'm curious. So Dana, would you take the Seahawks secondary over the Ravens?
I think it'd be real close. I think it would be real close. Here's the thing. I instantly go into the divisions that they play in. And so if you're just looking at the players.
Just the players.
If you look at just the players, if Dunbar can make it more than 10 games, it'd be real close. It'd be real close.
Evan, it's okay. You can talk now.
Breathe, Evan. Breathe in through your nose.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's
they're about even. That's
Isn't that amazing that's a conversation?
It's a cop-out answer, but I'd call them even.
But it's not a cop-out because it's pretty true. And you have to take into account the divisions that they play in. You have to, you know.
And the nickel corner spot.
Like I would say that Seahawks have the better safeties. The Ravens have the better corners is what I would say.
See, I like Humphrey. I like Humphrey better than any of the Seahawks corners, but I like our other two corners. I think I like our two corners better than any of their corners other than Humphrey. I think the Seahawks, the secondary, as soon as you get to the nickel thing, that's the big question mark. Like,
Marquise Blair, baby. Marquise Blair. He's going to compete at nickel, and Pete Carroll confirmed it. Pete Carroll confirmed it.
Look, Pete Carroll drives you crazy, so why would you believe what Pete Carroll says?
Pete Carroll is a liar.
Pete Carroll's never lied.
Pete Carroll is a serial liar. I want to be very clear about that. We all know that to be an observable fact.
God.
No, he absolutely lies. All head coaches lie. Pete Carroll is just a master liar. Pete Carroll lies, but not in this instance.
I see people in the chat saying Blair is underrated. The next one is Blair is going to be a bust. I would say, I don't think Blair is underrated. I think that a lot of people are very high on Blair. I think that the team hasn't found a way to use him yet, and he hasn't found a way to be trusted yet. I just don't. His body does not profile as a nickel corner. It just doesn't. So, I think he's a great athlete. I like him in a position where he's on the field and can make plays. Maybe they see it as a place where he has less choices to make, and so he can just fire his gun and go hit people. but straight nickel corner, not some kind of special big nickel 3 safety kind of look where it's zoning it. I don't like it. So like I have to wait and see, but I guess I'm gonna stick with my perspective that he will not be a nickel corner in this defense where he mans up with a slot receiver. I don't think that that's gonna happen.
Not with slot receivers. I think we could see some stuff like they did with Akeem King a couple years ago, matching up against tight ends, because he's what, 6'1", 210, something like that. So he's got a little bit of size to him.
That's fair. That's fair. Can we guys, can we talk about another part of the defense? Are we good with the secondary talk? Can we move on a little bit?
Do it. You tell us where you want us to go, Dana.
Oh, so we've got to talk about this Clowney, Griffin, Matthews, which catches in my throat and I have a really hard time saying that out loud. And then Darius got thrown into it today. It's bizarre what's happening. And we were all talking about how we can't decide if it's bait and switch to get Clowney to sign, if they're just playing the game, what they're going to do. And the one consensus that I can see off of Twitter, and I want to know what you guys think, is that while most people want Clowney in Seattle, they would really be okay with Griffin. And I have to say, I'm one of those people. I would love to see Everson Griffin in Seattle. Evan, do we agree?
Oh, no. Everson Griffin should be an addition, in my opinion, regardless of what happens with Jadeveon Clowney. Like, I think they should move. What was that?
I'm gonna have to rethink my position if we agree.
I think they should move money around to make him possible, regardless of what happens with Jadeveon Clowney. Now, I'm just going to get this out there because I heard the words Clay Matthews. Fuck Clay Matthews. I don't want Clay Matthews near my football team.
I don't either.
Fuck
this
him.
is why we can't have ads running on this show, because
fuck him.
Get it.
He's a dirty son of a gun. I don't want that type of player on my football team. I just don't want him. I'm sorry.
I like that you go with son of a gun. You censor yourself
Clean
there.
it up a little bit.
You couldn't pay me to put him on this roster. Like, I don't want him.
No, I don't want him either. And, forever he will be a Packer. I don't care what team he played on. It's just, I don't like the way he plays. I don't like the look of him. I think he's annoying. I don't want him anywhere near Seattle. And I think that was definitely the major consensus from everyone that I read on the Twitter.
What if he did to Jimmy Garoppolo what he does to Russell Wilson? Would you like that a little bit?
No,
no, yes, you would.
No. I don't root for injuries. I just think Clay Matthews is a dickhead, and I don't want him anywhere near my football team.
He's a son of a gun.
Yeah, I don't like him.
I don't either. But we have to. I mean, and Derek, what are your thoughts? I don't know that Clowney is a possibility. I don't know that I care anymore. I'm tired of hearing about him, to be honest with you.
I've let that ship sail. I just.
Oh, for sure.
The cap's getting short. It sounds like he wants still a lot of money that the Seahawks really don't have unless they can make moves. I think KJ Wright is a potential cap casualty if they would choose to go there. But I think Everson's a great player, and they'd be lucky to get him. I'm shocked that he's still out there. I don't know what's taking so long for him to sign. Because I don't, unlike Clowney, I don't think he's asking for, $15 million to sign. So it's interesting that he's still out there. And I think he has interest in Seattle. So that would be a great addition.
I really thought, though, that maybe he was deciding whether to play or not, like if he's going to opt out or not. So I thought maybe that he's telling people, listen, I don't know if I'm going to play. So maybe that's what was taking. But that ship has sailed. So I don't know, get him signed. I know.
I agree. Yeah.
Brian, you really want Clowney in Seattle.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I think one of the things that I still feel is maybe misunderstood or not talked about enough is the assumption is like Clowney, Griffin, Matthews, they're all edge players. So it's like, interchangeable somewhat in terms of the role that they were playing. But Clowney actually is very good on the inside and can play interior. And the Seahawks interior pass rush is a much bigger issue right now than their edge rush. And I know not everyone on this podcast is excited about Benson Mayowa or Bruce Irvin as rotational pass rushers. I think they're going to be fine. I think they're upgrades over what we had last year for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we've got some young rookies that are edge with Alton Robinson and Dale Taylor. We'll see what happens with those guys. Who knows? And then you got Rasheem Green, who could be better than the 4 sacks from last. So there's some promise on the edge. Interior, who do you have? You have to hope Jaron Reed somehow is like better than he was last year. And you don't know that. He could be, but we don't know. And that's pretty much it. So like, I think Clowney, that's why to me, he's worth more than the other guys. Is he worth, however, who knows how much he's asking for, but he also is a better run defender than those other guys. So those two things are different than the other two players. So if you lose Clowney and you sign Griffin, I think it's great from a just additional pass rush perspective. But you can only have so many edge rushers on the field. And so, I think that adds more depth than it does. And I think it does add a little to the ceiling. Clay Matthews, I don't have the same like vitriol that you guys have for him. I mean, it's fine. I get it. He doesn't like tick me off in the same way. If you got him, I don't think he raises the ceiling of the defense. I just think he gives you depth. And so Griffin, I do think raises the ceiling of the defense. I think he's a significantly better player than Matthews. So yeah, I definitely want Clowney. I'm not going to lose hope until, if the Seahawks sign Griffin or Matthews for, a chunk of change, then I'll probably say the door's closed. But this could all still be posturing. We'll just have to wait and see.
Could be.
I was
dying to say something.
I was getting really hyped because I was remembering a phenomenal football player by the name of Al Woods, who Brian slandered consistently.
He's not playing this year.
I know. I was going to make the joke until I realized and remembered he opted out.
He's not playing.
So my joke doesn't work.
I got to jump in there because, first of all, you had no idea who Al Woods was until I told you he was going to be a good player for this team.
No, you're right. You're totally right.
And then he was really good. You were like excited. And then I got mad when he got suspended for performance-enhancing drugs because that was the team needed him. And that is ridiculous. All he has to do is stick in the middle, stop taking drugs, like just be fat in the middle. Like that's what you got to do. So that was annoying.
True.
But he is not a pass rusher, dude. That's off topic. Like the Seahawks don't have an interior pass unless LJ Collier.
I hope he figures it out. I really, really do.
Would there be any greater shock? Like name me another than if LJ Collier ended up being a contributor. Is there another player that if they ended up being an impact player for the Seahawks this year would be a bigger shock than LJ Collier?
I don't think so. Jason
Myers?
He's already a high impact player for this team in a positive way.
I mean, John Ursua wouldn't be as big of a shock. I think people expect it from Ursua, right? Like
you saw moments from him last year.
I think if David Moore took a big step forward, I'd be pretty shocked. No, I'm not slandering him at all. Like I just don't.
He's already done more than Collier's ever done.
Yeah,
it's truth. Yeah, it's kind of.
He's had production. I mean, Collier had a half a tackle last year, I think. Like,
I think someone in the chat says this. And I think it's probably fair, but Shaquem Griffin, that would be a pretty
the way he plays
because I just don't know where his position is.
But what are you at? I mean, they used him in the off the edge, like in a pinch last year, because they had absolutely no edge presence, and that should be improved.
He's had some decent plays on special teams. I think that he's a special teams player, and I think that we've seen, some good out of him. I don't even know that LJ Collier could play special teams. I mean, he could. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he's a kid. I mean, he's got to, give him a minute to see.
25.
Well, I get it, but
I have to answer this question for Jeff Simmons. Brandon Jackson, our new defensive player.
He's gonna be so mad.
He's a new contributor to the team. Super excited about his ceiling. Got some real potential to make an impact.
Do you guys remember though?
Go ahead.
Do you guys remember when he first got signed on the team in 2017 and he had 4 pressures in his first game?
No, I don't remember that.
You guys don't remember this? I remember this specific because somebody asked Pete, because they signed him off the practice squad, And Pete was like, yeah, we just kind of found this guy and he ended up working out pretty well. So it seems like ever since then, they've just been enamored with him.
I have to go on a little bit of I have to represent Jeff about Brandon Jackson. I think as excited as we were, Dana, about the Dunbar news, I think there was as much just melancholy
dismay. There was some dismay,
about the Brandon Jackson news. And here's the thing, like Jeff takes it to another level, but he and I are very much aligned. A player with a low ceiling that has no unique physical trait that or unique like playing trait that takes up a roster spot is maybe the worst thing in the NFL. Like, I would rather have Jamison Kantz on the roster or Christian Sicoli on the roster, who at least there's some potential that maybe they put all their physical skills together and something pops, than have someone with a low ceiling and have like a Tim Ruskell player on the team. It drives me nuts. And it's nothing, nothing against the guy himself, but as a football fan, Brandon Jackson is everything I don't want on the team.
Yeah. Jeff's going to be real mad we had this conversation without him. We'll just all say that. Now, I want to know your guys' thoughts on bringing in DJ Reed. Free safety got him from San Francisco, which
I'm excited.
The 49ers fans' heads explode that we were picking up their crumbs. And I told you that irritated me because I'm like, pot kettle. But yeah, so obviously he's not going to play right away. It's going to take him a while to heal from his injury. But I mean, there's some upside to this.
First of all, 49er fans need to shut the fuck up about them taking our players, because they took not only did they take Richard Sherman, didn't they just sign Ezekiel Ansah and Deion Jordan, Seahawks legend Deion Jordan? They're stealing our players. Okay. So this is a little tit for tat. It's not a big deal.
All of them.
Cassius Marsh. That's
not to mention that their GM has been very overt in saying that he has patterned himself and his approach over to Pete Carroll and John Schneider.
Yes. Yeah.
No wonder they lost the Super Bowl.
Derek, this may be a short-lived appearance on the show.
I needed that.
And out.
But seriously,
yeah.
I think, you can always have a good insight into the quality of a player by how opposing the fans that lost him react. And I didn't see many 49ers fans that were like, oh, good riddance.
Right.
There were a lot of folks that were like, damn, like the 49ers were hoping that he was going to go through waivers and that they could stash him on the injury list.
Mm-hmm.
Seahawks claimed him. And this he's a legit, he profiles as a nickel corner. Now, the challenge is he's not going to be healthy. He may miss the whole season, but at the very earliest, I think he's got a torn pec or something like that. Mm-hmm. I think the earliest he might play is November or December. But imagine, let's think best case, because come on, that's fun. Quinton Dunbar's there. You've got Shaquille Griffin. You've got Jamal Adams. You've got Quandre Diggs. And then, maybe you've got a decent nickel, and then Reed comes in and you've got a young quality nickel that's cheap at just the right time. That could be a great finishing kick for the end of the year. So I think it's an exciting ad.
Me too. I thought it was a pretty good idea, especially, he will hopefully become available as those injuries start to add up too. So you never know when you're going to need him. And so, yeah, everyone's like, what's the point? What's the point? He can't play. Oh, there's always a point. There's always a point where you are going to need that type of player. And you were right. The 49ers fans were not happy that he was gone, which is always a good thing. Yeah, I agree. Now I want to talk real quick, because I know we got to go here in just a second. Josh Gordon, Antonio Brown. Josh Gordon, please.
Yes.
Does anyone want Antonio Brown in Seattle? He's the better wide receiver. I'm not going to lie.
Russell Wilson.
Geno Smith.
I would be really curious to hear Russell Wilson's thoughts on
the reasoning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I just want to hear from him in a press conference or something. I just want to hear the rationale, and I'm not saying I'll agree with it, but I think fans really underestimate the headache he could pose here.
I agree.
And I'm not doubting his skill at all. I just think, imagine, it's week 17, go back to the 2019 season, and the Seahawks are playing the 49ers at home, okay, in a divisional rival matchup for major playoff seeding implications. What Antonio Brown did to the Steelers, is he opted out. Basically, he decided he didn't want to play in a game just as important like that scenario for the Steelers. It's not even so much he's a total like idiot, honestly, but like that incident of him just deciding, I'm annoyed at Ben Roethlisberger and I don't want to play football.
Quit on his teammates multiple times.
Yeah,
quit on the Raiders over a helmet.
It's insanity.
Here's the thing that really I don't think people totally understand is, okay, let's say that they add him. And can you imagine him being satisfied getting less targets than Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf? Either one of them? No. And so then you've got a guy that's going to demand like a lot of targets, and Russell will probably try to placate that. So I think that makes you potentially worse. But let's assume best case that he's as good as he was, best receiver in the NFL. Then you've got a guy who's quit on teams before multiple times or had other issues pop up. Imagine having your team like rely on that guy as a major part of your offense. I mean, we had Josh Gordon last year. He was willing to get less targets than the other two guys, and he did add to the team. And yes, he left the team for a different reason, and so you can't really count on him either. But it wasn't because he quit on them. So to me, it's not even close. I think Antonio Brown is a never sign under any circumstance.
I think that, and I don't know Russell Wilson personally, obviously, so maybe I'm wrong here, but my guess is that Russell Wilson has a little bit of the bleeding heart Pete Carroll has. He sees these players and he thinks he can fix them. And sometimes it works out great, Marshawn Lynch. Other times, doesn't work out. There is no fixing Antonio Brown's ego. There's just not. And I don't think, and I can see where that pull would be there for them. It just is not going to work out in their favor. Work with someone who is working their tail off to get back to the NFL, like Josh Gordon is. That's my thought.
And I don't even want him stealing snaps from DK. No, you know what I mean? Like his development. Like I'd much rather, even if it means like Metcalf is doing less net, like yardage wise than that, I'd rather Metcalf get those snaps for his development. Like just not interested in Brown at all.
Nope.
And and no one even mentioned that the fact, as soon as he signs, he's probably going to the exempt list anyway. True. And then going to service suspension. So
he wouldn't be around anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's true, guys. Hey, guess what? Our time is up because Evan's got to go.
I do. We have a game night tonight, a Zoom virtual game night with our friends. Highly recommend it during quarantine.
Please don't make their ears bleed.
How many bottles of wine?
It's White Claw night, baby. It's Friday night.
All right.
Oh, see, now you lost me, Evan.
Do you not like White Claws? They're good.
No, I have taste. I don't like White Claws. Come on.
All right, fair.
Oh.
Hey, this has been fun. I want to thank Dana for hosting and keeping us under control, and Derek for joining us. Even with his little rabble rousing, we can put up with a little bit of that. You did your best, Nathan. That was nice. And if folks haven't already, please click subscribe. Click the little bell to get notified when we go live. As you're seeing right now, you don't know when we're going to go live because news breaks at different times. Guarantee you, if Clowny news breaks, we'll be back on pretty soon. So, click subscribe, join over at patreon.com/hawkblogger, sign up, get added to our private Slack channel where you can harass Evan one-on-one. It's a lot more fun that way. And otherwise, have a wonderful weekend. It's been great talking Seahawks, and go Hawks.
Go Hawks.